Hi, everyone. Thanks for stopping by the Time We Discuss studio. Today I'm speaking with Nikki Nicholas, and it's time we discuss what it's like to be a life transformation coach and mental and emotional wellness expert. Nikki, thank you for joining me today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
I find the subconscious mind very fascinating. You obviously do as well. You've studied it since 2007. Now, as a life transformation coach and mental and emotional wellness expert, you utilize your knowledge of the subconscious mind and help others as they transition through difficult times in their lives. This could be when they're changing careers, maybe starting a new business. So, Nikki, in working with people going through these changes, what is a typical day like for you?
Oh, I absolutely love it. It's funny because when I first started, I was thinking it was all about, working with people and just helping them through what they're going through. But really what the day-to-day is, a lot of it is you gotta get out there. You gotta like, no matter how good you are at something, you really need to be able to put yourself in front of the right audience. Know who the right audience is, first of all, for your service. Put yourself in front of them and then be good enough at, I guess, showing them that you know what you're doing to kind of attract them so that you can actually get clients. So to be honest, I would say a lot of my day involves creating content. It involves looking into different, strategies of, marketing, learning about selling because I had never been in sales before, anything like that, which is a whole other ballgame to anything that I've experienced before. And then obviously the client sessions themselves, which is my favorite part. So I would say it's kind of a blend of so many different things. Plus, on top of that, you're kind of your own IT department. I have my partner that I'm working with as well. And so he does video editing. He's a lot of the technical side of things, the admin side of things. But a lot of it is like we both work on the website. I have a background in front end web development and online marketing. So it's like you really wear so many hats because like we're running our own business. And when you run your own business, you kind of just have to figure it out. You can't call IT. You just need to look things up. You just need to do what you do. And you are the gas pedal that you have to keep that foot down on in order just to keep pursuing things, keep moving forward and keep advancing. So I would say in a day, it's about that. It's kind of a blend of all those different things. But my favorite part, oh, also podcasts, can't forget podcasts. But my favorite part for sure is the actual sessions with clients where I can just make a big impact on their lives and also create resources for them to help them like in between sessions as well. So I would say that those are my favorite parts of it.
That makes sense. I feel like most people when they start a business, it's about the business thing they're creating. Whether it's they're selling they're selling portraits or they're creating intellectual products or whatever. They don't necessarily get into business for the business side of things specifically.
Right.
Usually, when it comes to I forget how you phrase it, but basically looking for clients. How much of that is done online versus like physically trying to find people? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, so for me, well, I am post-COVID. We're talking post-COVID. And so everything is online for me. My partner and I, we hired a business coach and he showed us all these different strategies for actually doing it online. So it's purely online based, aside from word of mouth. So there's that too. But yeah, we haven't done any, like we work from home. So we haven't done any like physical boots on the ground kind of stuff. Before COVID happened, I was doing in-person workshops that were live. And there was more of that element to it, but I also was doing this part-time at that point, not full-time. So I had my regular job where I was talking to people and all that.
You touched on one component which I love. This is the third conversation I'm having in recent history regarding people that they had their job that they were working and they transitioned out into being an entrepreneur. So talk to me about that experience for you. Everyone's story is different, but invariably when you're starting a business and you ultimately come to a point where you give it up, you continue to do that and the full-time job, or you choose to give up the full-time job and grow the business. So explain that process to me and to everyone else. What was that like for you coming to grips with that decision?
Yeah, so it was a long time coming. Like as you said, I've been studying the subconscious mind since '07, which is like insane. I started life coaching in 2017 and honestly for me a lot of it when it comes to the coaching side of things and like therapeutic kind of practices, For me anyway, and from what I've heard from others, it's very much about like people are paying you to get a certain result. For me, even though I was consistently getting like exemplary results, within myself, a lot of what it was the confidence piece where it's like, well, what if a challenge comes up that I can't handle? What if a challenge comes up that I don't know how to solve? And or they don't get the results, blah, blah, blah. So for me, transitioning from part-time to full-time, most of that was my internal self going, am I good enough to fill in the blank? And am I good enough to find clients and market and blah blah blah, and then the fears about that. So then we get into the side of what I do, which is that mental and emotional wellness piece, which is just understanding how that all works and how much of that comes up within people during a life transition. That's probably some of the biggest challenges people experience, is that fear of moving forward, where it's like, okay, I want to do this, but oh, like I'm gonna shift my entire life, and it's quite a big turn, big shift. So having gone through that, that's a lot of why I'm able to help people through it as well. But yeah, it's definitely about the intense emotions. For me, that's what I focused on, was just going into that, releasing those in order to be okay doing that transition. But the actual transition itself, aside from that, it brought up intense emotions. It was, I mean, I'd been wanting to do it for years. So, and I've always been like entrepreneurial. Like when I was little, I used to do, like even 4 years old, I used to like take apart a piece of candy and sell each piece to my friends to try to buy more candy. So I had like my little business cards and all that when I was 8, like all that kind of stuff. So I've always been entrepreneurial. So this was a long time coming. Um, but yeah, so for me and for my partner, it really was just the emotions tied to it, just like a lot of people, that were the challenge. The actual leaving of the jobs, aside from the emotions, we were pumped. Like we were just like, okay, this is what we're doing. This is where we're going. And we were really, really driven to go forward. But yeah, it really is the emotional piece that is kind of that sticking point for us and for others.
When it comes to your educational background, has that had a major impact in what you do now? Did you go to school for anything in particular that helps you out now, or was it kind of unrelated and it was more you picked up the education elsewhere?
When I was out of high school, I actually didn't know what I wanted to do. And so my parents are like, okay, you can go do whatever you want. But because I didn't know, I didn't want to waste their money. I didn't end up going to a college. I ended up just teaching myself like front end web development, how to build websites, how to do online marketing. And that got me the qualifications to go into the jobs that I had, and also the qualifications to do what I'm doing now. And then I did all the project management side of things in those jobs. Same thing. That's what I do now. When it comes to the subconscious mind stuff, it was just like tons and tons of online courses, one after another, after another, after another, which neurolinguistic programming, hypnotherapy, RMT life coaching, which is Tony Robbins' life coaching course. And then metaphors of movement is something I'm working on now. Also, it kind of goes, I did a couple things that are related to like energy work and stuff like that. But yeah, it was just kind of a collection of a ton of different things. And then on top of that, my corporate job that had all of these other things have really come in handy for what I'm doing now. So
It's funny you mentioned Tony Robbins. I remember listening to some of his stuff. Oh, geez, had to have been, I don't know, maybe 20 years ago at this point. I have
yeah,
no idea.
yeah,
Such a great speaker. I don't really remember
yeah.
all the stuff I actually listened to, but I remember listening to this one recording, and it was probably spanned like hours worth of stuff. But it was just great
Mhm.
speaker, very very interesting to listen to. And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
you talked about NLP and hypnosis. Do you use much NLP in what you do,
Oh,
and do
yeah.
you use hypnosis in what you do? How does that all work for you?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So because so many different stages have happened in my life, to come to this point, I use those things plus kind of mindfulness and meditation, because in doing it myself to release the negative emotions, I used those practices as well. So I starting out with NLP and hypnotherapy. So the reason that hypnotherapy is kind of blended in with NLP is actually because NLP is based off the study of the subconscious mind. And so the people who were creating NLP, the way that they created it, they were looking at different psychotherapists, psychologists, the best in the world, and they were going, okay, what are they doing what are they doing with people that's getting the results? And they kept peeling layers of the onion back, and they kept finding that it was subconscious things. They were talking to the subconscious mind. And so they were fascinated by that. They started like breaking it apart, exactly what they were doing. And then they would be like, okay, this is what this is called. This is what this is called. Like, for example, like submodalities or modalities where like all of your outside senses, you also have internal senses in the same way. And so they were breaking apart subsets of those internal senses. How do you do what you do subconsciously at that level? And so in doing that, they started to realize that some of these psychiatrists, psychologists, they were actually putting people under hypnosis into a trance, because as people are in trance, they are able to speak to their subconscious mind more freely. And so that's why NLP and hypnotherapy are kind of married in a way, is that they come from the same place. And it just kind of came out that because both are so much about the subconscious mind. NLP is about dissecting, studying the different modalities, whereas with hypnotherapy, that side of things, it's more about the trance work and putting people into a state where you can elicit change more easily, although you can do it conversationally as well once you know what you're doing. But anyway, yes, yes. So they are definitely blended. And I would say that's probably the reason why.
I want you to think of like I hate to say like a typical person, but I want you to think of a client that you've had, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a current client. Could be someone from the past, not someone from the future. And and can you give us an example of something they were struggling with and how you helped them? What that kind of looked like?
He was dealing with kind of a numbness. He felt like emotionally numb, but it turns out it wasn't that he was emotionally numb. It's that he wasn't pursuing what he wanted to pursue or what lit him up, and was kind of bogged down by how negative he was feeling with his emotions. And so he was kind of trying to repress those negative emotions. And in doing so, he just kind of went numb. And that's what a lot of people have, is their life isn't necessarily what they foresaw it being, and they're not necessarily in a place they want to be, and they have negative emotions come up. But in our society, we're typically taught, oh, we don't want to feel negative emotions, let's run from them, let's not feel them, let's distract ourselves, when that is literally the exact opposite thing people should be doing. This is where mindfulness and meditation comes in, is you need to go to the feeling. It's just a sensation in your body. It's literally put there by you at some level, at a subconscious level, so that you feel it. Because all of our emotions, they're not just like, oh, there's a negative emotion. It's like you put it there at a subconscious level. You created that emotion, and it's prompting you to look at something within yourself. And so with this particular client, just like all of my clients, it's the exact same thing, to be honest. Like repetitive negative thoughts, negative thinking, overthinking comes from negative emotions that aren't being looked at. We're distracting ourselves with thought. Oh, I wonder what this is. Oh, I wonder how I can fix this. We're busying ourselves in our minds so that we don't have to feel the feeling. And so every single client of mine, it's about, okay, go to the feeling, feel the feeling, sit with the feeling, become aware of it, and then do different processes to release it. So typically, like with this client, every session we had, it would be a session where there's a negative feeling he's feeling, and we would figure out what is his current strategy of, typically avoiding the feeling. We go to the feeling and we process it out. And then within that matter of time, typically like half an hour to an hour, that emotion is gone, because it's not needing to prompt him anymore. It's not needing to bring this negative feeling up in him to get him to act a certain way in life. He's now consciously aware of why that emotion was coming up in the first place. And then from looking at it, he can go, oh, it was telling me this. Okay, well, I don't want to do that, so I don't need that prompt anymore. Or, oh, I do want to do that, I just wasn't getting that message.
When you're having these sessions, how are you how is the person coming to this realization? How are you working with them? Is it a simple dialogue? Are you putting them under hypnosis?
Yeah.
What is that actually like?
Yeah, so it's actually very interesting. So I learned something called conversational hypnosis. So I don't need to put somebody into trance, but to be fair, so trance is just you are focusing more on your inner world than your outer world. So for example, when you're driving from point A to point B, have you ever had it where you are driving, you get to point B and you're like, I don't even remember the drive. That's because your consciousness was inside thinking thoughts, and your subconscious mind there, because of that, had to take over driving. So you were subconsciously doing all the things out in this world because your consciousness, your conscious awareness was inside your mind. And so it's the exact same thing.
Nikki, I want you to finish this, fill in the blank here for me, okay? If someone wants to do what you do, okay, they should not pursue this career if blank. And it could be if there's certain aspects of it that, would be dissuading to them, or personality type, or
Mm.
education. What would that blank be?
I would say if you can't emotionally handle it yourself. So, because if you are starting a business, I would say that is the most challenging thing you could possibly do, because it's going to test you in every possible way. You're going to have to constantly like up level and grow and learn. And so, if you're into that, that's amazing. Do it. If not, that's probably the deterrent. Is it depends really what are your priorities in life? Like, do you value safety, security? If so, you probably shouldn't jump into starting your own business, for example. You should stay in that safe, secure job. And so that's what I was grappling with for years, before jumping out of my corporate job was, I wanted that safety and security and was terrified to take that leap. So I would say that's probably the biggest thing. Also, they just have to enjoy it. They have to enjoy it like to the next level, and just be passionate about it. Also, working with people, marketing and sales, that's a thing. You can hire that out, but I think it's good when you can know it yourself and do it yourself as well. But just know what you're getting into, know the full gamut of what you're needing to do is all of those things that I mentioned previously. And if you don't like any of those, then maybe mitigate that risk before you jump in.
That's really, really good information, Nikki. Thanks for sharing that. So,
Yeah.
Nikki, this is the part of the show where I like to ask a surprise question for my guests. Has nothing to do with your job, nothing to do with what you do. So my surprise question for you today: every once in a while, we all experience something weird. Maybe it's deja vu, where we swear that what is happening now already occurred in the past, or we have a moment of precognition. Maybe it's thinking of a friend from your childhood who then suddenly calls out of the blue, or maybe it's an anomaly in a photo which you've taken. So, Nikki, what is
Mhm.
one thing that sticks out in your memory that when you look back, you think, man, that was weird?
Oh man, there's so many things. I don't know if I could pinpoint one right now. Oh, how about when I first met my partner Travis? So I had long story, but it was during COVID, and I just remember I was being single like on purpose for a few years, and I was like, okay, like literally that day I was like telling my friend I went for a walk and we're like, I think it's time. I think I'm ready. I think I'm good. I think I'm, good to go to the next phase and start looking. And then I remember thinking, like, I'm just going to see what happens. Let the universe bring what it brings and go with the flow. So I'm like, I'm not going to make any specific choices today. I'm just going to see where I end up. And we met up with a bunch of people, different places. And by happenstance, um, we were supposed to go to like 5 different places and we didn't. And then we randomly went to this one place and he was there. And as soon as I walked in, I was like, oh, I like him. And he was super nice and all this. And anyway, I ended up giving him my number. And the only reason I gave him my number is because he noticed that I didn't like ice in my water because it was too cold. And so later on, when I asked him for water, he's like, "Oh, no ice, right?" And I was like, "Oh, that's really nice that he remembered that." And yeah, and then anyway, long story short, now we're together, and it was just crazy because it's one of those things, like so many things that day. If anything different, if any decision had been made differently, then we wouldn't have met. And so I would say that's probably the one that sticks out the most because it was a really, really neat experience that really shaped the rest of my life. So yeah.
That's awesome. That's a really great story. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Now, Nikki, I do like to extend the courtesy to my guests. At the end of this segment, I like to say if there's something you would like to talk about, it could be a cause you believe in, a project you're working on, your business. So if there's something you'd like to discuss, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Okay. Well, yeah. So I like to give when I can. And so I actually have a link to, if anyone's interested in understanding the subconscious mind more, understanding their subconscious patterns, subconscious blocks, I'll give you a link. It's just to a free 9-minute video where I explain what are subconscious blocks, where do they come from, and how can you find them within you. So feel like that aligns with them, then they can click that link and yeah, and watch that video and get that information. Yeah.
That sounds awesome. So I'll make sure I get that link from you. I'll put it in the description of the show so people can easily access it. And I'll also put it on the website as well so people can get it from there as well.
Beautiful.
Awesome. Nikki, it's been so informative and awesome talking to you about what it's like to be a life coach and, working with emotional wellness. Just a fantastic experience. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much too. This was really fun.
Thanks for popping in the studio. My name is Dan, and this is Time We Discuss. I really enjoyed speaking with Nikki today, and I hope you enjoyed the time too. Make sure you check the links in the description to learn more. If there's a profession that you want me to cover, add a comment, and I'll find that person for you. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. That'll do it. See you next time on Time We Discuss.